You trusted your gut. You went all in on what felt like a clear intuitive signal, and then it was wrong. Or at least you felt like it was wrong. The worst part is when that little voice gets in your head and says, see, you should have just trusted the logic. But here's what I want you to know before we begin today. It has happened to me. It has happened to every intuitive psychic medium I have met. It is something that we don't talk about often, but I just want to say you are not alone. You are not blocked. You are not broken. I want to talk you through some times where my own intuition has been completely wrong, or I've witnessed it in students. And then also, what is going on in those scenarios? What's happening in those moments where you feel so wrong or off, or it's not resonating? How do you reset yourself? How do you get back to normal? Because what I will tell you is that's where the growth tends to happen. I'm Emily Snyder of Connected Intuition. I'm a psychic medium for pets and for people, and I love to teach people about using their own intuition. I've had students come to me all the time saying, my intuition is wrong, but we work through the techniques we're going to talk about today, and everybody leaves feeling a little bit better. So let's dig in. Your intuition is a relationship. It is formed over time with repetitive use and can be something that can feel very meaningful to you. But like any relationship, sometimes that communication gets a little crunchy. There's a few reasons why your intuitive hits don't land the way that you are expecting, and let me walk you through. Sometimes you're reading the potential or the possibility of a person, not the person's presence. That can be yourself included. But let me give you an example. In the mediumship reading that I had right after I lost my job, the medium said to me, you're going to be in marketing. And I thought to myself, I'm in finance. I deal with numbers all day. What are you talking about? Spoiler alert, here I am on social media doing a form of marketing. The medium was actually not wrong. I was just not ready to hear that information yet. Adjunct to this is timing. Like I said in the last message, I wasn't resonating with the possibility of what my job could be, but that also had to do with the timing. When you're reading someone's future or the possibility or something way off in the distance, things may change. I firmly believe that we have free will. We are sent to this world to learn lessons, and sometimes those things change depending on our world and what's going on around us. Sometimes your emotions will take over the message, especially if you're super empathetic, whether it's for you or for someone else. You may actually be picking up on your own fear or your own hope, no longer neutral information. Sometimes you get a symbol and interpret it in a different way than intended. You get an impression in your mind, and then your brain kind of takes over and finishes the sentence. That's where things can go sideways. And finally, what I mentioned at the beginning, sometimes you're just human. Give yourself a break. I often say that I'm 80 to 90% accurate on a reading of someone else. The research says on average people are about 68% accurate about their own gut feelings. That's actually more accurate than logic. Logic is only right about 25% of the time. So you're still beating the odds. None of these things mean that your intuition is broken or that your connection is off. You're just in the process of refining your own intuitive language. Here's a distinction that changed everything for myself and for my students. Once I understood that there was an intuitive signal itself, and then there was an interpretation on top of it, I could understand which was which. Now, telling the difference between which and which takes a little bit of practice, but if you always come back to that intuitive signal, you'll have the true information from your intuition. What actually happens when someone says my intuition is wrong is this. They first get an intuitive signal, just like this water landing in here, and sometimes it comes in rushing and then it settles very quickly. And it's very clear. We know that this is our intuitive signal. But then your mind took over. So the signal came through, and then you added a little something on top of it. Let me give you an example. So, for instance, if you thought you were going to have a change in your career, and that's what you heard, a change in your career is landing, but then you thought, oh, I'm getting a promotion. Oh my gosh, I'm getting a new boss. It's going to happen super fast. And I feel really great about this. I'm super excited. And oh my goodness, when is this going to happen? And then you start to ask yourself a bunch of questions about what's going on. And suddenly that intuitive signal gets clouded by all of the things around it. When I shake this up and you start thinking about it week after week, here you are thinking about it week after week. Suddenly that intuition is not so clear and it's a little foggy and reflective and kind of the lights going in all different directions. After I clean up my intuition, I've got one more thought. So Your intuition wasn't wrong in that case. It was your interpretation. Your mind started working and adding on to that intuitive hit, giving it more information than was given to you. This is one of the hardest things to train yourself out of. Your mind wants a story. It wants the full picture. It wants all the answers. It wants to know what's going to happen. You may know that you're going to have a career change, but you may not know when, how, who, what, when, where, why. All those questions kind of muddled together into the glitter of not really knowing what is going on with your career. Let me tell you about a situation that happened in a class with a student. So Grace was in a meditative state, one place that we often get our intuitive hits, and she heard, "My dog is going to die." Now, I, as the teacher on the other side, was observing my students and noticed that she started to cry during the meditation. Now, this isn't uncommon when we're dealing with intuition and spirit and lots of feelings and emotions. They come through, and that is completely normal. But tears sometimes can signal something else is up. So when we got out of the meditation, I asked Grace if she was okay, and she said not really, and she said she didn't want to share. So after class, she stayed on and we talked about it. Essentially, she had gotten this intuitive hit: my dog was going to die. And then her brain had taken over and thought, soon, the dog is going to die soon. And what's wrong with her? And oh my goodness, I'm not prepared for this. And she had taken the sentence of the intuitive hit down this winding, long, and twisty road that led to anxiety. And so we had to take it back to the information, because if you think about it, her dog is going to die at some point in time. But is she going to die today? Probably not. And I will assure you she did not. But there is something to that interpretation that took it to the worst case possible. Now, the reason why Grace got that intuitive hit is a time and a place for another video. But just rest assured that it was a longer story about things that were happening with her pet. So Grace's story leads me also to timing, right? So Grace got this intuitive hit of my dog is going to die, but that is true, but the timeline is still uncertain, and it does not mean that that's going to happen soon. So a lot of times you may get the information correct, but the timing might be off. And sometimes we can get a feeling about a person, oh my goodness, I feel like they're my person, but it just didn't work out. And the reality of that situation is maybe there's a life lesson in there about thinking that they're the person or not, or it could be timing. They may enter the scene 2 years later, etc. My story about personal timing being off is actually a career-based one. I was at a job in the fashion industry where I was wearing many hats, unexpected hats. Lots of hats I didn't ask to wear. At that point I decided I needed a new job and something that aligned to more like things that I wanted to be doing every day. And I heard, "You're going to get a new job." And yes, great. This isn't going to take very long. It's just around the corner. I will tell you, it took me 18 months and about 20 interviews at the company I eventually landed at, but I did get a new job. It was just that the timing was much more expanded than what I was anticipating. I'm not saying to let yourself off the hook completely. Let's say your mind did take over and you took it way down the street, or you were trying to predict the future and the future came and it looked a lot different than you had anticipated. Those things definitely happen. But there is a timing aspect to this. And if you are thinking, oh, this hit still feels really resonant with me, my body, I'm feeling it, still feels yes, 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 it might just be unfinished. Okay, let's say you're in a reading, you're giving an intuitive reading, a psychic reading, a mediumistic reading, and something is not landing. It just feels off. The sitter is saying to you, "No, I don't understand," or "That's not right." What do you do? Here would be my steps. Step one is to pause and breathe. Give yourself a second. Let your nervous system kind of relax and not get defensive, and just relax for 1 second. Number two, check the frequency. Where is the energy coming from? Are you reading your own energy? Are you picking up on their energy? Are you reading a higher self energy? Or are you connecting to the collective or a spirit guide or something along those lines? If you can identify where that information is coming from, it will help you understand why it might not be resonating. If you can verify it's not coming from the person right in front of you, it might be a predictive note or a hit that's telling the person of something in the future that they're just not aware of just yet. Step number 3, go back to the true. So if you're getting a lot of no's, it's not resonating, this isn't working, go back to the thing that you know is true. Start from there. Look at the signal, hear the words or the sensation that you got. Verify that the thing that you know is true, that that person sitting in front of you is true, that everybody's on the same page about, is your starting point. Then try again to follow the line that spirit is taking you down without interpreting it yourself. Step number 4 is to change the channel. Let's say your claircognizance is on overdrive and you're just getting knowing. Stop what you're doing and ask for a clairsentient message to verify that claircognizant download. For example, I know that she has a career change. So then feel that in your body. Do you feel that to be true? Yes. Okay. Then you can also ask for backup on a different channel. Can you give me a clairvoyant message, a clairaudient message? Can you give me something else that shows me a bigger story around this claircognizant download? Step number 5 is to reread the energy, but put your ego to the side. We all like to be right. I love to be right, but sometimes I'm actually wrong. Once you let go of the idea that you need to be right, it's a little bit freeing. So you let go of I have to be right, and then the information should flow a little bit more freely. I would go back to the information that you've gotten from spirit and use a body calibration or some other method to get a yes or no answer from spirit about whether or not what you're getting is true. If it's actually wrong, I would just correct yourself. Clients don't need perfection. They just need you to reroute yourself around the information so that you're giving them the correct interpretation from your intuition, from your psychic abilities. Personally, I had one of the most difficult readings of my life last week. I had a client come through who was a referral, and she said she was very excited to sit with me. Always feels great. She sat down only wanting the answer to one very important question in her life. It was pretty much a yes or no question, and she just wanted to know what to do. No matter what I said, nothing was resonating. So what did I do? I followed all of the steps above. It still did not resonate with her. Now, the information I was getting was not a clear yes or no answer. What do you do in that scenario? I clearly called out, it doesn't seem like this is resonating with you. And she agreed. So I said, thank you so very much. I will be refunding your money because that's a nice thing to do for people, and wished her the best on her way. Do I think I know what's going on? I do. I think it's a timing thing, and I also think it's a bit of a life lesson. It's very difficult when a sitter comes to you wanting one specific thing from spirit and spirit doesn't want to give that. What do you do after a reading like that? You definitely give yourself a break. So I went outside and walked in the grass, took a deep breath, did a little meditation for myself, and tried to kind of slough off some of that energy. I also phoned a friend and just was like, here's what happened. This is how I feel. And had some great talks about other situations psychic mediums have been in. If this was in a situation of giving yourself an intuitive reading and it wasn't quite checking, check in with yourself emotionally. Where are you today? Are you super emotional? Are you super charged around this issue? Maybe give yourself a day. Then you can also use tools, either oracle cards, a pendulum, your body calibration. Use something that gives you a little bit more information that feels a little bit more objective. If you're talking about a big complex problem, for instance, finding a new job, what I should have done in that scenario was break it down further. Am I going to send my resume to someplace that will call me back in the next 3 weeks? Should I send my resume to this company? How will I feel in this job if I get this job? Breaking that situation down into bite-sized pieces will make it easier for your intuition to give you clearer guidance without your imagination or your brain taking over and giving you way too much sentencey stuff down the way. The one thing I will say that I've learned is that intuition does not get better the harder you try to grip it and try to get information from it. The second you really need an answer, intuition's probably not going to speak to you in the way that you need. This is a relationship and you need to treat it as such. There's a back and forth. Some days are good days, some days are crunchy days. Some days you'll feel like it's just everything is resonating, and some days there are just going to be tough readings and tough interpretations for your own self. If you've ever had a moment where your intuition felt wrong, hear this. You are not broken. You are just evolving your practice. Accuracy does not mean you have to be perfect. Intuition works with your curiosity. It's building that relationship to something that feels workable to you, not 100% right every single time. If you want a space to work on this and build that accuracy and that clarity of message and reduce the amount of interpretation you're doing, I have two options for you. In my 3 week Intuition for Beginners class, we spend the first week talking about that intuition versus fear, doubt, anxiety, and mental noise, and that will help you clarify the message and get better accuracy. I also have an intuitive and psychic development circle, which runs for 8 weeks starting in September. So if you've already got an understanding of your intuition, but want to dive a little deeper and work on that accuracy, get validation from a lot of partner work, and really see it through in different examples that will give you to stretch your intuition, that's the class for you. All of the information is on my website at connectedintuition.com. And from the navigation, you just click on classes and you'll see the drop down there of what's available. If this helped you reframe something, hit subscribe below. I'd love to have you join our journey. I love to see all of the comments also about what resonated with you or a time in your life when your intuition has been wrong. My name is Emily Snyder for Connected Intuition. As always, stay open, stay curious, stay connected with Connected Intuition.